3 in the morning, a room full of the sharpest cybersecurity minds in the country, and every one of them staring at me, waiting for me to say the word that would either save 200 hospitals or lose them all. On the main screen, a countdown. 11 minutes. And with the entire medical system of a nation about to go dark, I did something nobody in that room could understand. I smiled, not because it was funny, because after 15 years of chasing a ghost, I had finally seen its face. I knew this monster. I had shaken its hand before. In fact, I was the one who first let it in. But before I can tell you how that night ended, I have to take you back to the worst day of my life. I was 22, and I was nobody, a junior IT tech at a regional hospital network. The kid who reset passwords and untangled printer cables for doctors who never learned my name. But in my head, I was going to be a someone. I wanted to matter so badly it hurt. I got my wish. God, I got my wish. It was a Tuesday, 4:58 p.m. I was 3 tickets behind and trying to look fast, trying to look like I belonged. An email slid in, an invoice, an ordinary name, nothing that whispered danger to a tired kid desperate to impress. So I opened it. One click. You want to know how fragile everything you depend on really is? It's one click. That's the entire distance between a normal night and a nightmare. For 10 seconds, nothing. Then the screen flickered, and a single line of white text appeared. You were always going to open the door. I laughed at it. A prank, I thought. A glitch. Then the phone rang. 3rd floor. A nurse, locked out. Then the ER. Then everywhere at once. In under 20 minutes, the entire network went black. Records, gone. Scheduling, gone. The systems that told doctors who needed what and when, silent. And down in surgery, a 7-year-old named Maya, already prepped, had her operation postponed indefinitely because no one could reach her chart. I never saw her face, but I have spent 15 years imagining it. They didn't send me home that night. They couldn't. Every hand was needed. So I sat in the corner of a conference room and watched grown adults reroute ambulances and dig out paper backups nobody had touched in a decade. A surgeon passed me at 2 in the morning, still in his scrubs, and looked at me like I was something the storm had dragged in. Nobody died. I tell myself that a lot. But surgeries were postponed. People waited in fear. And every one of them paid for a click I made trying to look important. 2 weeks later, they fired me. And here's the truth I still choke on. I deserved it. You think the fall is the worst part? It isn't. The worst part is the silence after. No calls, no references, no future. Just a kid in a rented room, staring at a laptop he was suddenly terrified to even open. But one thing wouldn't let me sleep. That line. You were always going to open the door. It wasn't random. Somebody wrote that. Somebody built the thing that ruined me and left those words behind like a signature. Like an artist signing a painting. And late at night, that thought did something strange to me. It made me angry instead of ashamed. So one sleepless night, I stopped running from the thing that destroyed me. And I turned around and started to study it. Not how to break in, how to keep others out. The walls, the people who stand between one careless click and a catastrophe. I read until sunrise. And for the first time in months, I wasn't the villain of my story. I was becoming the one thing the villain is afraid of. I won't lie to you. It was brutal. And it was slow. 3 years. Every single night after jobs that had nothing to do with any of this. I stocked shelves at dawn. I drove deliveries in the rain. Every spare dollar went into courses and a practice lab I built from secondhand parts on my bedroom floor. People asked why I was obsessed with the industry that spat me out. I never gave them the real answer. Because it was too heavy. I was trying to earn back a version of myself I could look in the eye. And slowly, it worked. First certification, first real job, night shift, watching the alerts nobody else wanted, a promotion, then another. And I found the one weapon none of my brilliant colleagues had. I knew, in my bones, exactly what it feels like to be the scared human who clicks the wrong thing at 4:58 on a Tuesday, so I could see the attack through their eyes. I could feel it coming before it landed. My worst moment had become my sharpest blade. 15 years after that dark night, I stood in an operations center in Washington with a badge on my chest the 22-year-old me could never have dreamed of. I led the national team that defends the country's most critical systems, power, water, and hospitals, thousands of them. Which brings us back to 3 in the morning, the countdown, The room full of geniuses waiting on me. The attack had come out of nowhere, bigger than anything we'd ever seen. Tearing through medical networks in a dozen states, hospitals going dark one after another, exactly the way mine had. Except this time it wasn't one building, it was hundreds. For one paralyzing second, I was 22 again. Watching screens die. Helpless. And then the report hit the main display. The message the attack had left on every locked screen across the country. 6 words. White text. You were always going to open the door. The room went silent. To them, it was gibberish. To me, it was a voice from a grave I'd spent 15 years climbing out of. The same author. The thing that destroyed my life hadn't vanished. It had grown up. And it had come back for 200 hospitals at once. But here's what it never counted on. It didn't just teach the world how to break things. It taught me how to stop it. I knew this ghost's habits better than anyone alive because it had lived inside my worst memory for 15 years. And I knew where it would strike first. The children's wards. The softest target. The fastest way to force a nation to its knees. Maya's ward. Somewhere out there, a kid exactly like her, prepped and waiting on a chart that was about to disappear. Not this time. 11 minutes became 10. I stopped smiling and started calling it. Seal the healthy systems. Cut the spread before the next wave. One clear voice into every panicked hospital in the country, telling them exactly what to do in the seconds that mattered most. Because these attacks don't win with code, they win with fear. And fear was the one thing I understood better than any attacker alive. Hour by hour, we shoved the dark back. 1 ward, then 10, then 100. When the sun came up, the countdown was dead, and the door was shut. The news called it the largest attempted cyber attack in American history. They also called it the one that failed. Not one of them ever knew that the man who slammed that door was the same terrified kid who, 15 years earlier, had opened it. I think about that a lot now. How the worst thing I ever did became the exact reason millions of strangers slept safe that night. So if you're at the bottom of something right now, a failure you're sure defines you, a mistake you swear you'll never outrun, I need you to hear me. Your lowest moment is not your final moment. Sometimes the very thing that breaks you is the thing that shows you where the world is weakest. So you can go stand in that gap and guard it with everything you have. One click ended my old life. Everything I built after was the answer. And the door I once opened by accident, I spent 15 years learning how to close it. For good. If this story hit you the way it hit me, do me one favor. Tap that subscribe button and go watch the next video right now, because your climb to the top starts the moment this one ends.